The more a man thinks, the more he detaches from the world. And one day, if he thinks long enough and deeply enough, he detaches even from himself. Not from the essence of being, but from the mask he was told to wear, taught to polish, and forced to parade through the theater of existence. The crisis, if it comes, does not announce itself with screams. It arrives silently, through a glance in the mirror that feels foreign, through a conversation that rings hollow, through the strange, aching question. Who is this I have become? He does not say it aloud. He knows better. The world does not welcome such questions. It rewards the man who adapts, who functions, who performs. It calls him strong when he suppresses. It calls him noble when he sacrifices. It calls him successful when he becomes unrecognizable. And so, the mask remains. The posture is kept. The voice lowered to sound confident, measured, unfazed. But within, where the eye does not reach, where language cannot redeem, something begins to fracture, and the fracture is not a flaw. It is the beginning of truth. This man, the one they see, is not the one who suffers. He is the projection built to be accepted, sculpted by fathers who themselves wore masks, molded by systems that mistake obedience for virtue, shaped by ideals that glorify conquest but fear tenderness. The world says, be a man, which means be invulnerable, be unyielding, be known only through action, never through silence. Do not falter, do not feel, do not fall apart. And so, he doesn't. Instead, he calcifies. But he is not at peace. He is not whole. He moves through his life like a well-oiled machine, efficient, armored, exhausted. There are moments when he catches his own reflection, and for a heartbeat, he sees something behind his eyes, a flicker of grief, a buried plea. But it vanishes quickly, drowned by habit, by duty, by the perpetual requirement to be a man others can rely on, even if he himself has become a stranger to his own soul. And so it continues. The mask tightens, the breath shortens. The silences grow heavier, and all the while, the self that was meant to emerge is quietly imprisoned behind layers of performance. He does not know what he has lost, only that something is gone. He does not know where it hurts, only that the ache is constant. And every day he rises, dresses the part, speaks the lines, and dies a little more inside the role. It is not weakness that haunts him, it is recognition, a whisper that grows louder in the still moments, that the man he has become is not his truth, it is his confinement, that beneath the polished exterior, beneath the learned competence, beneath the praise, there exists a caged watcher, one who sees, one who remembers, one who mourns not a failure to become, but a betrayal of being. This is the interruption, the psychic rupture that tears through routine and reveals the unbearable secret. The self he has worked so hard to build may in fact be the very thing keeping him from himself. And once this is glimpsed, even for a second, the performance can never feel the same again. He walks through his own life like a figure inside a painted scene, perfectly posed, carefully lit, and utterly motionless beneath the surface. The mask, though praised, has become unbearable, and yet he cannot set it down. It has adhered to the very fibers of his identity. To remove it would be to expose something he barely remembers. The unformed, unarmored self who once existed before function replaced feeling. And this is where the agony deepens, not in ignorance, but in awareness. He knows. He knows the man he plays is not the one who watches. But the world does not allow the watcher to speak. There is a war within him, fought without words. The will demands continuity. It whispers that survival depends on this performance. Keep going. Do not reveal the cracks. Do not hesitate. Do not speak your sorrow. And so he does what is expected. He produces, he protects, he perseveres. He shows up for others, even as he disappears from himself. And when the hollowness sets in, he calls it tiredness. When the rage erupts, he calls it stress. When the longing whispers, he calls it foolishness. Anything but what it truly is. The soul resisting its own disappearance. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. The will does not care for truth. It only cares for motion, for repetition, for continuation at any cost. And what better servant of the will than a man who was applauded for destroying his own interiority? What better disguise for suffering than competence? The world cannot see the brokenness behind the posture because it was trained to reward the posture alone. And so, he lives in conflict, outwardly strong, inwardly vanishing. The man has been reduced to his function, and the function has become a tomb. There are moments, piercing and rare, when he almost tears the mask away. In solitude, perhaps, or in the quiet aftermath of failure, a memory surfaces of a younger self, softer, less guarded, wide-eyed and unbroken. A self that did not yet know how to lie to survive. But the moment passes, as they always do, and the will reminds him, that version of you cannot protect you. That boy cannot pay bills, cannot earn respect, cannot be desired. And so, he retreats again into the mask, and the watcher within him grieves in silence. This is not just a psychological tension, it is metaphysical. The false self, the man, is the will's construction, designed to keep the game going, to chase what cannot satisfy, to perform what cannot liberate. And yet, the true self, the one who sees, is not dead. He lives behind the eyes. He listens to every lie. He feels every betrayal. And the longer he remains caged, the more violent the conflict becomes. What the world calls discipline is sometimes just despair disguised as order. What it calls ambition is often the soul's last attempt to find meaning in a structure it never consented to. And what it calls manhood, this tightrope of stoicism and control, is often the most elaborate prison of all. He does not hate the mask, he has grown fond of it. It has given him approval, protection, identity. But now he sees it clearly. And once the mask is seen, it becomes impossible to forget it is there. He moves through his day haunted by this vision. The applause feels hollow, the praise like a foreign language. He laughs, but it costs him something. He achieves, but it brings no rest. Because the man he is, the man they admire, is not the one who longs to be free. He is the cage. And so the conflict deepens. He cannot return to unknowing, but he cannot yet escape. He walks now with a shadow not cast by the sun, but by his own face, and every step forward feels like a betrayal, not because he is failing, but because he is succeeding as someone he no longer believes in. Now the rupture begins to tear through the fabric of his being. What once felt like tension becomes torment. What once whispered now screams. The dissonance cannot be dulled. Every gesture feels false, every word rehearsed. He begins to feel as though he is watching his life unfold from behind a pane of thick, invisible glass. He performs, but he is not present. He speaks, but he no longer hears himself. Even pleasure begins to rot. He laughs, but feels nothing. He touches, but it does not reach him. The hollowness devours him in daylight, even among others, especially among others. And beneath it all, the deeper knowing that he has betrayed something sacred, not through cruelty, but through obedience, not through selfishness, but through submission to a form of selfhood he never chose. The man he has become was built to be safe, admired, untouchable. But in becoming that, he has banished all softness, all spontaneity, all possibility of being truly known. He has created a version of himself that cannot receive love, only approval, and approval, no matter how thunderous, cannot nourish the soul. This is where the spiral intensifies. The pain is no longer abstract. It sharpens into rage. A rage not directed outward, but inward, at the self who conformed, at the dreams that died in silence, at the years wasted performing strength while quietly unraveling. He thinks back to moments when he could have chosen differently, when he could have spoken, wept, stayed, left, broken down. But he didn't. He swallowed, he hardened, he moved on. And now, all those silences have gathered. They rise like ghosts, and they demand to be felt. There is no peace in this place, only revelation. The realization that he has not simply worn a mask, he has become it. The real has been buried so long, it now feels foreign. When vulnerability arises, he doubts it. When tenderness appears, he rejects it. When weakness calls, he silences it. And so, he spirals. Not in madness, but in awakening. Every layer of falsehood peels back. Every lie that held him together begins to collapse. He is not falling apart, he is falling through. Schopenhauer saw the core of this agony. that the will does not care if we suffer. It demands only that we persist. And so we build lives that look good, that function, that appear enviable, while the inner self rots in confinement. This is not a flaw in the man. It is the design of the will itself. It seduces us into roles, identities, structures of meaning, only to reveal, too late, that those structures are traps. And the more earnestly we play the part, the deeper our imprisonment becomes. The spiral brings him here, a point of saturation. The mask no longer fits, but it cannot yet be removed. The true self cries out, but does not yet trust its own voice. He stands between realities, too awake to return, too entangled to escape. This is the most dangerous place, when the lie has collapsed, but the truth has not yet arrived. He is naked in the mirror now, not just in body, but in being. There is no comfort. There is only the undeniable sense that he is dying, not in flesh, but in fiction. And yet, within this horror, something sacred stirs, for to spiral is to descend, and to descend is to near the root, not the root of pain, but the root of identity itself. He begins to see that his suffering is not proof of weakness, but of contact, that the pain is not madness, it is memory, the memory of the self before he was molded. The ache he feels is not dysfunction. It is the call to return, not to who he was told to be, but to who he was before the will wrapped him in its demands. But he is not there yet. He is still spiraling, still grasping at fragments, still afraid to fully let go. And the fear is justified. For once he releases the man he has become, what will remain? What will rise from beneath the ruins? The spiral offers no answer, only the invitation to keep descending. And so he does. He reaches the bottom. There is no floor, no blaze of insight, no final revelation, only a stillness that does not speak, a silence that does not soothe. He is alone now, stripped of all self-narration. The ambitions have fallen away. The performances have turned to ash. Even the pain has changed. It is no longer the sharp cry of protest. It has deepened into a dull, continuous hum, like the sound of wind moving through a hollow space. There is no victory here, no applause, only this, the end of pretending. And in this silence, something begins, not from above, but from within. He does not feel stronger, he does not feel new, but he sees. He sees the structure he built to protect himself, and how that same structure became his confinement. He sees how every trait he thought was him, his resolve, his intensity, his armor of calm, was a survival pose taught by fear. He sees that even his most noble behaviors, his discipline, his reliability, his restraint, were forged not in freedom, but in response to the will's command. Continue, survive, perform. And now he does not want to continue. Not as that man. He does not want to perform. He does not even want to be seen. He wants only to stop betraying what he knows. This is not despair. This is the first moment of alignment. The watcher within him, long silenced, long denied, long imprisoned behind muscles and metrics, now stands at the center. And he speaks, not in words, but in presence. I am not the mask, he realizes. I am the one who watched it form. It is a realization without ecstasy. It does not elevate. It does not thrill. It grounds. And grounding is painful for a man who has lived suspended, between duty and longing, between strength and suppression, between what is expected and what is real. But now he feels the weight of gravity. And strangely, it does not crush him. It holds him. It anchors him to a truth no one gave him, a truth no one can take. That truth is this. He was never the man they saw. He was the one beneath, the one who felt everything but was told to feel nothing, the one who questioned everything but learned to remain silent, the one who longed not to be strong but to be whole. And now, in this bare and burning moment, he ceases to apologize for existing as that one. He is not healed. He is not fixed. He is not free in the way the world understands freedom, but he is no longer lying. He does not need to be defined. He does not need to be praised. He does not need to be feared or respected or desired. He only needs to be what he has always been when no one was watching, a witness, a field of perception behind the form, a soul before the strategy. The will still stirs within him. He feels it rise, telling him to rebuild, to recalibrate, to re-enter the game. But he does not obey. Not this time. He listens, he breathes, and he waits. This is the moment of truth, not the finding of a new self, but the dropping of the old, the recognition that the man he became to survive is not the one who can now live. That self must be released, not because it was evil, but because it is no longer necessary. And so, he lets it fall, the voice, the posture, the perfection, the man. He lets him fall like a husk cracking open. And in that soundless collapse, something softer begins to stir. Something without armor, something without aim. Not a new identity, but a return to the formless. Now the silence remains, not as absence, but as truth. The collapse has happened, the mask has cracked. The man, the one built to perform, to protect, to please, lies in pieces at his feet. And for the first time in years, perhaps in decades, he does not rush to rebuild him. He does not reach for reassurance. He does not ask, "Who am I without this role?" He simply waits, listens, watches. Because he knows now that the one who watches is the only part of him that was never false. This watcher does not strive. He does not project. He does not construct a future or narrate a past. He observes the world as it is, the hunger in others' eyes, the theater of strength played on every street, the quiet panic that pulses beneath all ambition. And he does not judge. He only sees. And in that seeing, he is free, not from suffering, but from illusion. Not from the will, but from mistaking its voice for his own. He no longer needs to be a man in the way the world defines it. He does not need to be composed or hardened or triumphant. He does not need to hold it all together, because he has seen what lies behind the one who held it all. And it is not weakness, but being, not failure, but freedom. The man was the prison, and the one who looked out through his eyes is now walking beyond the bars. He will still be seen by others. They may still call him strong or distant or composed, but he no longer inhabits those words. He no longer confuses their reflection for his reality. He lets them say what they must, and in response, he remains quiet, not out of suppression, but out of clarity. What is real does not need to speak loudly. It does not argue. It does not seek permission to exist. This is not the resolution of a journey. This is the end of running. He does not arrive at a new self. He arrives at the space beneath all selves, the field where perception rests, the groundless center. And from here, he no longer asks to be understood. He no longer chases connection as if it might save him. If it comes, it comes. If it does not, he remains. Even the will, ceaseless, blind, insatiable, continues to move. But now he sees it as wind passing through trees. It bends the body. It stirs the thought. But it does not define him. He is not the movement. He is the one who knows it is moving. He walks slower now, speaks less, not out of withdrawal, but out of alignment. He does not offer pieces of himself to be approved. He does not explain his distance. He does not mask his emptiness with noise. For his emptiness is no longer something to hide. It is something to honor. It is the place where the false man died. It is the space from which the true one now sees. Let them misunderstand. Let them cling to the dream of strength. He has no need to shatter it. He simply no longer believes. And in this disbelief, in this quiet refusal to perform, he becomes what the world will never name, a man who has stopped pretending. Not because he found a better performance, but because he saw through the necessity of performing at all. And if he ever weeps now, it is not from sorrow, it is from recognition, that he was never broken, only buried, that the pain was not punishment, but pressure from within, pushing against the shell of fiction. And now the shell is gone, and what remains is neither hero nor victim, but witness. So let it fall. Let the image collapse. Let the old voice go silent. Let the posture loosen. Let the performance die. You were never the man they saw. You were the one behind his eyes. If this unmasks something in you, leave a trace below. Write the part of yourself you're finally ready to release.